What if I told you you're not behind at all? What if the only thing slowing you down isn't your English, your age, or your situation, but a silent belief that everyone else is ahead of you? You see their fluency, their confidence, their success, and a quiet voice inside says, "You're too late. You should be further. You've wasted too much time." But what if that voice is lying? This video is not just an English practice session. It's a deep reset. Because today, you'll hear a story that speaks to the part of you that feels stuck, tired, or lost in comparison. A story that teaches English naturally, yes, but more importantly, reconnects you with something even greater: your timeline, your strength, your becoming. And here's the twist: the very moment you stop feeling behind, your English starts growing faster than ever, not because you work harder, but because you stop carrying shame. So if you've ever felt late in life, in English, in success, in becoming the person you dream to be, stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear might change how you see everything. He used to scroll through social media at night, lying in bed, eyes tired, heart heavy. His friends were posting photos from foreign countries, celebrating promotions, fluently speaking English in job interviews. He was just stuck. The screen lit up, but inside, he felt dark. That night, something inside whispered, "You're not failing. You're just following a different clock." At first, he didn't believe it, because comparison had already poisoned him. Every time he saw someone younger succeeding, something twisted inside his chest. His heart would whisper, "You're behind." His mind would scream, "You're too late." But deep down, he started to wonder, what if the race he thought he was losing wasn't his race at all? He remembered how long he'd been carrying things no one saw. A father who got sick, a job he lost, sleepless nights spent learning English alone because he couldn't afford a teacher. The people he compared himself to, they weren't carrying his burdens. They didn't wear his shoes. He started to realize he wasn't late. He was climbing a different mountain. One evening, after journaling in broken English, he looked at what he wrote and whispered something that gave him peace. "My story is different." It felt strange, but honest. For the first time, he wasn't ashamed of being behind. He was proud of surviving everything that delayed him. Learning English was no longer punishment. It became a gift he gave to his future self. Something changed. The next day, he didn't force himself to watch 5 English lessons in a row out of guilt. He chose one, listened slowly, and enjoyed it. He started shadowing native audio for just 2 minutes a day, not to prove anything, but because it felt like building something sacred. The pressure lifted, and suddenly, learning felt like healing. He even started celebrating tiny things: one full sentence spoken without stopping, one job application written in English, one mistake corrected without shame. Before, he only saw what he couldn't do. Now he saw every small step as proof. He was moving forward just on his own timeline. He didn't need to be fast. He just needed to keep walking. His new mantra became quiet, but powerful. "My pace is mine." He would say it before practicing English out loud, before interviews, before facing a new day. And the more he said it, the more it felt true. He was no longer chasing time. He was walking with it. With every step, he trusted something most people forget, that growth doesn't come with a deadline. And yet, even after this inner shift, something sneaky still tried to pull him back into comparison. A pattern of thoughts, like invisible mental traps. Thoughts that said, if you were serious, you'd be fluent by now. If you were smarter, you'd already have a job abroad. That's when he had to learn the next truth, that the mind itself can become your enemy if you don't train it. If you really want to wake up each day feeling disappointed in yourself, here's a perfect formula. Compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Scroll through Instagram, watch fluent speakers on YouTube, and ask yourself, why am I not like them? That's how to stay stuck, by using other people's timelines as rulers for your self-worth. Want to feel guilty every single day? Easy. Just measure your English by speed, not depth. Forget the effort you put in. Forget the fear you overcame when you said your first sentence out loud. Just keep asking, why is it taking me so long? That way, you'll ignore your progress and feel bad, even when you're growing. And if you're craving some real frustration, here's a classic. Expect linear progress in a non-linear life. Think every week should be better than the last. No breaks, no slow days, just a straight, perfect climb. So when life throws you a storm, like it always does, you'll feel like you failed. But it's not failure. It's just being human. Want to destroy your confidence? Focus only on what's missing. Don't celebrate small wins. Don't notice that you finally understood a full podcast episode. Ignore that you ordered coffee in English for the first time. Instead, just stare at your flaws like they define your entire journey. That's how to shrink your self-worth, one ignored success at a time. It's funny, isn't it? We know these thoughts hurt us, and yet we repeat them. You're too slow. You should be fluent by now. Everyone else is ahead. They become so familiar, we mistake them for truth, but they're not truth. They're mental habits, and just like any habit, they can be replaced. Here's one way to start. Instead of comparing yourself to someone else, compare yourself to you from last month. Did you speak more confidently this week? Did you understand more in that English video? Did you write one journal entry without Google Translate? That's real progress. That's your real competition. You can also shift your focus from quantity to quality. Maybe you only studied for 15 minutes today, but you were focused. You repeated sentences. You listened deeply. That's not enough. That's growth. Make it a habit to ask yourself, what did I strengthen today? It rewires your mind to value effort over speed. And most importantly, start honoring the uneven path. Say this out loud. Progress is uneven and valid, because the day you stop needing everything to be perfect is the day you start moving forward, not with stress, but with quiet power. But of course, there's still one more lie your mind will try to sell you, and that's where the real shift begins. There once was a man who believed he had missed the boat. His friends were moving abroad, speaking English fluently, building careers. Meanwhile, he was still living in his childhood room, using subtitles, afraid to speak up during Zoom calls. Every time someone asked what he was doing with his life, he'd fake a smile, but inside he felt like a failure. He called himself too late to start learning, too late to dream bigger. He thought success only belonged to early birds, the ones who figured it all out at 22. Shame wrapped around him like a heavy coat, not because he hadn't tried, but because he thought trying this late was embarrassing. Then one night, during a simple dinner with an old friend, something changed. They were talking about life, and the man said, "I wish I had started 5 years ago." His friend looked at him and replied gently, "Your chapter starts when you open the book." And that sentence didn't leave his mind for days. He decided to test it. That night, he picked up a graded reader, a simple English book for learners. He didn't understand every word, but he read the whole first page, slowly, then out loud. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, movement. It wasn't fast, it wasn't perfect, but it was his, and it felt good. Strangely, once he started, progress came faster than expected. Words began sticking. Phrases he'd heard 1,000 times suddenly made sense. Why? Because now he was mentally ready. All the guilt, all the inner resistance, it was gone. Learning was no longer tied to shame. It became something sacred. A month later, he began recording 15-second reflections in English, small voice memos. Today, I learned about phrasal verbs. I finally used to correctly. It became a private ritual. His pronunciation improved. His confidence grew. It was never about being perfect. It was about being consistent and kind to himself. And then came the full circle moment. After a year of steady effort, he got offered a job in a bilingual company. When he moved to another country, people said, "You're lucky." But they didn't see the nights he spent whispering English into his phone. They didn't see the chapters he read in silence. They didn't see the pain he transformed into power. Every day he shadowed native audio for 30 seconds, sometimes in the shower, sometimes walking, just 30 seconds. But those moments, those tiny habits, built the bridge that carried him from too late to right on time. And still, something deeper was waiting for him. A truth not about age or timing, but about how the brain itself changes when shame is finally removed. The brain is a storyteller, but not always a truthful one. It edits out your victories and highlights other people's success reels. This is called comparison distortion. You're not failing. Your mind is simply zooming in on their progress and zooming out on your own. And the more you compare, the less you feel like you count. When you feel behind, what's really happening is this. Your brain is running a faulty narrative, a dangerous one. It says, you should have done more by now. Others are better than you. But here's the truth. That voice isn't reality. It's your brain reacting to invisible timelines that society invented, not timelines that honor your life. There's no universal schedule for becoming fluent in English, no global clock for healing, growing, or succeeding. But because we're bombarded with images and milestones, we start believing in a perfect path. School by 22, fluent by 25, rich by 30. And if we don't match it, we feel defective. That's not truth. That's social programming. Now let's talk about tiredness. Because most people don't feel behind because they're lazy. They feel behind because they're exhausted, emotionally drained, spiritually stretched. You think you're moving slowly, but actually, you're just carrying too much. Your mind needs rest, not pressure. That's why one calming sentence can be more powerful than 100 lessons. Try this. Tonight, sit in silence and say, "My journey counts," out loud, slowly. Let your body hear it. Then, define your path, in English. Even just one sentence. I learn better when I'm consistent, not fast. Or, my story doesn't need to impress others. Writing your path in English helps you reclaim it word by word. Psychologists call this identity anchoring. When you choose new thoughts about who you are, your brain rewires itself. If you anchor your identity in speed, you'll always feel late. But if you anchor it in growth, you'll feel peace. You'll start seeing progress in moments that used to feel like failure. So next time that anxious voice comes back, telling you you're not where you should be, pause. Ask yourself as according to who. Then speak one calm English sentence. I am growing every day, not just in language, but in patience, in trust, in presence. And soon something even deeper awakens. A quiet truth about why you weren't meant to arrive earlier. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. Here's something most people never hear in time. If you had started earlier, you might have broken. If the opportunity came 5 years ago, you might not have been ready for its weight. Growth isn't just about skill, it's about strength. The kind of strength that life builds slowly through late nights, quiet pain, and invisible healing. There's an advantage to starting late that no one talks about. It's called the slow burn effect. Late bloomers grow deeper roots. They've known failure. They've faced rejection. They've learned to rise without applause. So when their time comes, they don't panic. They hold it with both hands because they've been waiting for it with wisdom. Try writing this in English tonight. I am strong because I've had to be. That sentence may seem simple, but it holds years of pain, survival, and silent resilience. Your English doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be true. Let your words become proof that the time you thought was wasted was preparing you. Think about it. How many years did you spend believing you were late, when actually you were building something inside that no one else could see? Maybe it was discipline. Maybe it was empathy. Maybe it was the courage to begin even after falling. That time wasn't lost. It was translated into strength. Say this sentence now, out loud, slowly. I am ready now. Let it echo in your mind, Not because everything is easy now, but because you are different now. You've been shaped, you've been tested, and now you can carry what your younger self could not. English isn't just your goal, it's your bridge to the next chapter. And speaking of that chapter, and what does it look like? Describe it in English, even 2 short sentences. Maybe, in my next chapter I speak without fear. I apply for the job I thought I wasn't good enough for. These words are not fantasy, they are seeds. And when spoken consistently, they begin to grow. The beautiful paradox is this: when you stop chasing time, time walks with you. You no longer live in a panic of not enough. You begin to live in a rhythm of purpose. English becomes part of your identity, not a task. And instead of running, you start arriving, fully, calmly, courageously. But there's something else happening, silently, behind the scenes, in your brain. Because the moment you stop feeling behind, your mind opens in ways science can actually explain. And this is where everything changes, not just emotionally, but neurologically. Here's what they don't tell you. Your brain isn't just listening to the English you study, it's reacting to how you feel while studying. When you feel stressed, ashamed, or rushed, your brain triggers cortisol, the stress hormone. And when cortisol rises, your memory and focus drop. That's why learning while feeling behind often leads to burnout, not fluency. There's a name for this: cortisol memory block. If you've ever forgotten a word you know just because you felt anxious, now you know why. Stress isn't just uncomfortable, it slows your brain down. So before you speak, breathe, inhale, exhale slowly. This isn't just calming, it's neurological preparation. It tells your brain, we're safe, we can learn. On the flip side, when you celebrate small wins, you activate a totally different hormone, dopamine. This is your brain's natural motivator. It rewards effort. So even something tiny, like understanding a sentence without subtitles, can give your brain a dopamine spike. The key? You have to notice it and celebrate it. Try this. After today's practice, even if it's just 5 minutes, reward yourself. Say something kind out loud. Nice job. I showed up. Or give yourself 5 guilt-free minutes of something you enjoy. You're not being soft. You're training your brain to associate English with joy, not pressure. That changes everything. Now let's talk about a beautiful process called neuroplasticity. It means your brain can literally rewire itself through repetition. But here's the secret. Repetition only works when you're relaxed. Pressure blocks it. So try shadowing a sentence, slowly, calmly. Even better, shadow while walking, breathing, or smiling. Yes, smiling. It boosts memory. You don't need to be young or gifted. Your brain doesn't care how old you are. It only cares about consistency. That's the timeline-neutral brain. So even if you started at 35 or 45 or 65, you're not late. You're just in motion. And every time you repeat a phrase, your brain builds a stronger connection. Try this tonight. Choose one simple phrase and say it 20 times, softly, clearly, without rushing. For example, I believe in my growth, or I am learning and that's enough. This isn't just speaking English. It's rewiring your entire nervous system to support your progress instead of sabotaging it. And once your brain is no longer fighting against shame, something powerful happens. You begin speaking with less fear, less hesitation. Your words come out easier. Your voice sounds stronger. It's not magic, it's biology. And it sets the stage for what happens next. When your progress finally speeds up, not because you're rushing, but because you're free. You can see it in someone's voice. Before, it was tight, rushed, nervous, apologetic. But something changes when they stop carrying shame. Their tone softens. Their rhythm slows down. They speak with space between their words, not because they're fluent, but because they're finally safe inside themselves. That's the tone shift. When you're not trying to prove yourself, you can be yourself. The irony? Your English gets better when you stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. Practice this now. Speak slowly, even if you make mistakes, especially if you make mistakes. That's where real fluency begins, in safety, not speed. And here's the confidence ripple. Once you stop obsessing over perfection, you start showing up more. You raise your hand in class. You order in English without switching to your native language. You ask that coworker, "How was your weekend?" Yes, maybe your grammar's off, but now you're participating, and that changes everything. Confidence doesn't come from speed. It comes from direction. One person can study for 5 hours and still hide. Another can practice for 10 minutes and grow faster, because they're facing the fear directly. Try this today. Answer one question out loud with confidence, even if the answer isn't perfect. Say it like it matters. When you stop feeling behind, you stop waiting for the right moment. You stop saying, "I'll speak when I'm ready." Instead, you say, "I'm ready enough." That small shift is massive. It pulls you into action, into conversations, into opportunities that were always there, but blocked by fear. Let's get practical. Start a short English conversation today. Nothing fancy, just a comment on a video, a voice message to a friend, a 1-minute self-recording. Not to test your level, but to remind your brain you are in motion. You're not behind. You're in the game now. And when you do this, something magical happens. Opportunities begin to return. Invitations, interviews, friendships. Not because the world changed, but because you changed how you meet the world. You no longer speak from panic. You speak from presence, and presence is power. But before you fully arrive, there's still one final piece. One final realization that transforms everything, not just in English, but in how you see yourself. It's the truth that was waiting for you all along, buried under years of pressure. It's time to uncover it. Why did I feel so late? He asked himself, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The answer wasn't loud. It was quiet, almost a whisper. Because I measured myself with someone else's clock. And suddenly, everything made sense. He wasn't failing. He was just using the wrong timeline, one that didn't belong to his story. The truth, he had always been becoming. Through every delay, every rejection, every night he doubted himself, he was still becoming. English wasn't just a skill he was learning. It was the soundtrack of his transformation. Slowly, he stopped racing, and in that stillness, he began to grow. Not faster, but deeper. One night he spoke to himself in English. 60 seconds, no script, just his truth. I used to feel ashamed, but now I feel ready. I'm not perfect, but I'm present. His accent was still there. His grammar was shaky, but his voice strong, because for the first time he was speaking from alignment, not anxiety. So he asked himself again, "Who am I becoming?" And the answer came, word by word, someone who trusts their process more than other people's opinions. Someone who shows up daily, not to chase approval, but to honor their own voice. That shift wasn't loud, but it was irreversible. He stood in front of the mirror, looked at his reflection and said out loud, "I'm exactly where I need to be." And he believed it. Not because everything was perfect, but because he was done measuring himself by artificial milestones. His journey wasn't a race. It was a return to his own rhythm. And now, the next chapter begins. He still makes mistakes in English, still forgets words, still has off days. But now, those mistakes don't define him. They remind him that he's alive, growing, in motion. So he whispers again, this time with pride, "My story is different, and that's my power." Every night before sleeping, he records a short affirmation in English. Sometimes it's about hope, sometimes about gratitude, sometimes just a reminder, I showed up today. This isn't just a practice, it's a ritual, a gentle promise to himself that no matter what the world says, he will continue becoming. And so will you, because this story isn't just his, it's yours. The timeline was never the enemy, shame was. But now you've replaced it with self-trust. And something tells me this is just the beginning. So now tell me honestly, what if you were never actually late? What if every moment of doubt, every pause in your progress, every slow season was preparing you for this version of you? The one that's still here, still learning, still showing up. English isn't just about vocabulary, it's a mirror. It reflects how you treat yourself. And now that you've seen the truth, that your journey has always been valid, how will you speak to yourself from now on? Will you speak with pressure or with peace? Will you keep comparing yourself to others, or will you finally honor your own rhythm? Let me ask you, what story are you ready to rewrite? What belief are you ready to let go of? And in English, how will you express the new version of you? Because this is more than learning a language. It's building a new identity. One word, one sentence, one breath at a time. If this story touched something inside you, don't let it fade. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications, and stay with us. Because these stories are not just lessons, they're reminders of who you're becoming. And now I want to hear from you. In the comments, what's one sentence you'll start saying to yourself in English, starting tonight?